So you grew up in Pennsylvania, as I said. You got your parents, your 5 siblings, a very happy childhood, and that was shattered at the age of 7.
Yeah, I was attacked while walking my dog after school one day by a man in the neighborhood. And after sexually assaulting me, he beat my head in with a rock, left me with a brain disorder, and I ruined it. I became a young alcoholic and a drug addict at a young age, and for many years just was lost.
Well, then you were accused of a kidnap and murder of a police officer. This was a crime that you were later acquitted of. But it was whilst you were in prison that you made a decision, a wrong decision, that affected your future.
Every bit of it, yes, ma'am. I was originally arrested in 1981 for attempted murder and kidnapping of a police officer, and I was facing life imprisonment, and I broke down after days of being in the cell with only a newspaper. And the newspaper article haunted me, and I shamefully made up a story, went forward to the police. They found out I was lying, and they decided, you did it. And they made up a cockamamie idea that I went out and killed this poor woman because she bore likeness to my 20-year-old girlfriend. And I was so overwhelmed mentally, I just reacted in anger to everything because I had no education. I couldn't deal with it all. And so I was given a 3-day murder trial at the age of 20 and sent to death, sentenced to die, plus 60 years, and then I was sent to one of the worst prisons in America.
There must have been, I mean, the woman who was murdered was Linda May Craig, and her murderer has never been found. But you made up the story, you saw it in the newspaper, you blamed someone you thought was dead. I'll say, I know who it was, blamed him. He wasn't actually dead, so then could prove that he hadn't done it. So you're in deep, deep trouble, and as you say, you know, the wheels, the bizarre wheels of justice roll, they decide you're guilty, and off you go, you're on death row. But for you, that must have been like some sort of surreal nightmare.
My first day, they beat me senseless, told me I wasn't allowed to speak of myself for the first 2 years. So if they caught you talking in your cell, Philip, they came in and they beat the hell out of you. I watched people kill themselves in anger and frustration.
11 people, I think you saw.
Yes,
that.
sir.
And 14 years also of not being touched by another human being.
Yeah, over the last 14 years, no human hand was allowed to touch me because I was X'd. After the escape from death row in 1985, they were really afraid of me. So if I exercised, they used to make me wear 50,000 volts of electricity at times, just because I was so dangerous to them.
Did you attempt to escape?
I did escape in 1985. I escaped from death row. I was on the FBI's most wanted list for 25 days, and then I turned myself back in because I knew they would just torture my family and torture me until they caught me. I wasn't clever enough to run, and I didn't do it. I got angry, so I handed myself back in. I went through death row in Florida. I was next to some really crazy serial killers in that prison. Came back to Pennsylvania, and they broke my face. They literally kicked my face in when they got me back. They shattered my face is all distorted. They did a lot of horrible things to me because they were so afraid of me. And then it was strange. When I proved my innocence, finally, I had to beg them to be executed to get DNA. In 2002, I was dying of hepatitis that they gave me after the beating. And I decided that I didn't want to die like that, so I asked them to be executed. I didn't do the crime, but I had loved myself enough that I figured, I'm not going to die like that. And the judge instead ordered the DNA testing, so I pushed myself in every way that I could to not be hurt by that, to somehow be a loving person, to find within myself anything good. That's all I had left. So I'm very grateful that I got a chance through Random House Publishers to share my new book, Fear of 13, because I want to use that empowerment over what they did to me to show people that it really matters that we take ourselves seriously. Like that young woman, she's trying her hardest in this world that's really complex, just like the rest of us.
Oh, you're talking about Alexandra, our first
Yeah,
guest.
and I found out, like the woman who wrote me this morning on Facebook and told me she was going to kill herself, but for reading my story in the newspaper or seeing my film. And I get it, Phil. I now have a purpose because of what I went through.